Wii Sports, the packing game of all packing games. Back around 06 or 05, Reggie fought tooth and nail against the evil Shiggy M to allow gamers, children, and families across the globe to be able to open their Wii and experience joy right out of the box. No extra games required. But Japan, Miyamoto thought they shouldn't experience joy. You see, since then, and even before then, packing games have basically died off for the Nintendo fan if you aren't getting a bundle. Most people view Mario Duck Hunt as a pack-in, but nope, bundle. Nintendo Land with Wii U, only in the deluxe set and only if you didn't get a different bundle, unlike Wii Sports, which did come with every console. And then the Switch released, with 1-2 Switch universally being agreed upon as the game that Nintendo wanted to act as, hey guys, this game will show you what the Switch is all about. And while I personally am a 1-2 Switch defender and had a lot of fun with it at launch, it really is one of those games that you can only have fun with if you flick it on with a few friends twice in a year. Any more than that and you're asking to be bored. The big difference between Wii Sports and 1-2 Switch is not that Wii Sports is a better quality game, which it objectively is, but that 1-2 Switch wasn't a packing game, instead being a full price release at launch. A big fucking gut punch straight to your colon from Shiggy, one that Reggie wasn't able to shield us from. Now, with everybody 1-2 Switch making it clear as crystal that a 1-2 Switch 2 is out of the cards, and with King Bowser Koopa himself taking Reggie's title, no one was able to stop Shigeru from dropping onto us the monstrosity that is Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. When this little shark got announced on the Switch 2 Direct, I thought, wow, this looks like a pretty cool built-in tech demo, but when the presenter referred to it as a paid experience, it was like the first of many signs that one of the 7 deadly sins had seeped its way into Nintendo's corporate pocket. But Sony is like the embodiment of greed, and Astro's Playroom is a fantastic little platformer built in with every PS5, but fucking Shigster is making my ass pay 15 Canadian bones plus applicable taxes for a genuine tech demo? What a bunch of horseshit. So with the Switch 2 having finally launched, I have just one burning question on my mind. Is Switch 2 Welcome Tour worth it? Probably not, but we're going to take a look anyway. Now, on a real level, the overview trailer did help sell me on this game a fair bit, but at the same time, guys, why the actual shit isn't this pre-installed? Welcome Tour centers around a bunch of guests at a Switch 2 themed attraction, with you taking control of one of these many park goers as you run around the venue. You spend your time either collecting stamps for each function of the Switch 2, playing through a series of mini-games or tech demos, or reading through many, and I mean many, insights on all of the system's inner workings and are then quizzed on them afterwards. The game is split up into 12 areas, each representing a different part of the console, controller, or peripheral. The areas are labeled from A to L and consist of each Joy-Con 2, the system itself, the insides of them, the strap, the dock, the camera, the grip, the Pro Controller, and the Joy-Con 2 wheel. From beginning to end, it took me nearly 9.5 hours to basically 100% complete the entire game, which isn't awful, but also felt like a very long 9 hours. While the main draw to this game entertainment-wise is certainly the minigames and tech demos, I swear that a majority of my time was spent on these damn insights and quizzes. The insights themselves pertain to the specific area of the Switch 2 that you're currently at, so if you're in the Pro Controller area, you'll be reading up on anything and everything about the Pro Controller, and I mean everything. Reading through each little slide, sometimes with unskippable videos playing and mostly about nitty-gritty technical mumbo-jumbo, truthfully got very boring very quickly. Sure, learning that the SL and SR buttons on the side of the Joy-Con 2s are made of steel in order to connect to the magnets within the system itself was actually really cool because it was the one time in the entire experience where reading any of the information it was spewing to me made me go, wow, that's how it works, that's so cool! Outside of that, it really is just very run-of-the-mill technical stuff that, in my opinion, is really only engaging to certain types of individuals, and I am not one of them. At one point, the game explains to you the benefits of HDR in the exact same way at least twice, once in reference to the console screen and once in reference to 4K TVs that feature HDR. They also explained the use of the GL and GR buttons on the back of the Pro Controller and charging grips separately, which was equally as strange. You'd assume that the player has at least read up on these when going through each attraction, or at the very least they could have changed up the wording so that things didn't feel so samey. My main critique of the quizzes and insights is really that there were just so many. I paid $15 to play something fun, not to read up on techie Nintendo homework. Anytime I go up to a quiz desk just for 5 insights to appear, I'd literally groan because now it was time to spend another 5 minutes reading through all of these slides just to answer the easiest 5 questions they could possibly ask you for the quiz. I will admit, seeing visual representations of the controllers and consoles' inner mechanisms was cool, and being told about the rigorous product testing and engineering that went into every aspect of the system's development down to the fucking Joy-Con 2 wheels was impressive and commendable. But eventually it started to feel like all these insights were just made so that Nintendo could say, hey guys, you see all the insane lengths we went to optimize every single aspect of the console's design to justify the $700 price tag? Because we did all that. Yeah, thanks for coughing up another 15 smacks so we could yap to you about how great we are as console manufacturers. Like, yes, okay, I get it. It's cool to see information about how the Pro Controller's D-pad has purposely been improved a significant amount, its sticks made softer, and its start and select buttons made easier to press, and its handling made comfier. Same with the Joy-Con 2s with their own sticks, feel, release buttons, and how they made sure the connector could not break under any circumstance when it comes to taking it out of the system's side. It was also nice to see them reference older gimmicks like the SNES and N64 mice, the Rumble Packs, Rumble cartridges, camera or microphone gimmicks from the Wii Speak to the DSi, wireless controllers starting with the Wavebird, etc, etc. But at the end of the day, this shit is just boring and is over-explained to an endless degree. I know way more about my Switch 2 and how it works now compared to any system I have ever owned in my life, and while that's nice, did I really have to? This is at its worst in the venue's final area, Section L, the console's interior. I swear this area has so many fucking insights to read through and quizzes to breeze through that I was going numb. The stamps in this area are pretty easy to find, bearing a few, and the minigames are so short that they don't make up for it taking slightly over an hour to get through all of the damn quizzes here. Lastly, the final quiz that you're met with after collecting all of the stamps has you answer questions about things you've learned across the entire tour, and while the final questions are incredibly basic and act as an essential homage to the very console you're playing the game on, there are genuinely 2 trick questions here with 2 different answers that seem correct. What the shit? Okay, enough about the insights. I want to go over the stamps real quick because there's not a whole lot to these outside of getting all of them allows you to move on to the next area. There's usually a stamp next to every function, so if you're exploring a controller, there's a stamp for the A button, the B button, X, Y, plus, minus the home button, triggers, player LEDs, etc. And if you're exploring the inside, there'll be ones for the main chip, battery, fan, microSD slot, you get it. All pretty basic stuff, none of them really being hard to find, which is nice, and I did like exploring the insides of the Joy-Con and the hardware itself, but I wasn't the biggest fan of the ice physics on the console screen. At least it was easy to click the A button in time to talk to the NPCs I was passing by. The main meat of the game, as said previously, is the minigames and tech demos, and due to the smaller number of tech demos there are compared to minigames and how simplistic they are, I'll be going over the latter first. Firstly, one weird thing I've noticed about the tech demos is that the employee NPCs that introduce you to each one always apologize for it being a tech demo and not a full minigame, and are like, hey man, sorry this isn't an actual minigame. It would mean a lot if you did try it out though, as if Nintendo thought most players would be like, a tech demo? You think I'm gonna play one of those pieces of shit? Yeah, right, buddy. It just really confuses me why they decided for the NPCs to constantly talk down on tech demos, as if these demonstrations of shit such as the improved HD rumble, visual demonstrations of how frame rates work along with HDR, 4K pixels, noise reduction, VRR, surround sound, etc. aren't all decently interesting. Speaking of VRR or variable refresh rate, it's the one thing that the game barely explains, scoffing it off as being so overly complicated that most players just won't be able to grasp it, and therefore the employee NPC is just like, yeah, this shit is complicated as hell and too much to explain, so here's a visual demonstration that may help. Fuck me, I guess, but you know what, at least I know what it does now. Most of the tech demos are very bare bones, and I mean, sure, yeah, they are definitely just tech demos, barely spruced up at all. I mean, shit, Nintendo tech demos in the past, like at E3, were much better than these things, but they do serve their purpose of getting their specific functions across. They just feel basic as hell in a way that I can't really describe other than that they have an overly simplified UI and feel way too techy for a Nintendo tech demo. Most of the HD Rumble 2 ones were pretty decent, but the motorcycle one just genuinely did not feel like the rumbling of a motorcycle's handles, and Welcome Tour already demonstrated to me that the rumble could be stronger, so why not just pump that shit up? My absolute favorite of these was Super Mario Bros. 4K. In order to demonstrate just how tiny pixels are on 4K displays, they let you play through World 1-1 of the original Super Mario, but by displaying the pixels by the same amount that the original game actually operates at, making everything appear so incredibly tiny that the entire level can fit on one screen. Honestly, super neat. I feel like there's not a whole lot left to say about these. There are not that many of them, and that's fine and all, but they accomplish what they were made to do, and that's all you can really ask for. Besides them being more whimsical, I guess. Now, the minigames on the other hand are pretty fun. Anytime I got to one of these was a great moment because yay, finally, something engaging for 5 minutes because these shits are just as long as the insights and quizzes for whatever damn reason. A vast majority of them center around the mouse controls, and I can only assume that's because Nintendo either really wants players to get used to using their Joy-Cons like this, or they were just really proud of this idea. Out of the 20 minigames playable here, 15 require mouse controls. 15! I mean, sure, the entire concept surrounding most of these fall apart if you were to remove the mouse controls from the equation, but holy shit, guys. Each minigame typically has multiple difficulties that are basically different levels, with most having 4 and some having as few as 2 or even just 1. When a minigame is unlocked, you can get up to 2 clear medals for completing the minigame either in a certain amount of time or by getting a certain score. You actually get a single one of these clear medals by completing checklists in the tech demos. Anywho, these 2 clear medals typically aren't the hardest to get, depending on the minigame of course, but there's also a third secret clear medal requiring really tight timing or high scores. Upon getting 2 of these, the game doesn't initially hint at what the goal for these third medals would be or that they even exist. It's only upon going going back in once you leave a minigame after collecting 2 medals, or if you get really close to getting the third one, does it tell you the requirements. I'll be honest and say that for about half the minigames, the third medals aren't the hardest to get. When it comes to the timing-based ones, say the first medal requires a 35-second clear time and the second one a 25-second time. Usually, the third will require 15 seconds or sometimes only 20 if they're feeling generous. As said before, some of these are pretty tough to get and can take a lot of practice, but some are fucking impossible. Take the minigame Find the Strongest Rumble for instance. In the first difficulty, you have to just find the strongest rumble along the x-axis. The next difficulty up, the y-axis is added. But in the third, you have to worry about the x and y-axis along with a shit ton of red herrings being spread across the board. And you have to find these shits within practically the size of the cursor in order to get the second medal. The third, 1. A distance of 1. What is that shit, 1 pixel? Actually ridiculous. So yeah, just get the clear medals at your own pace. As long as you get 2 in each difficulty of each minigame, the game still treats it as if you got 100% completion in them. Now for my thoughts on all of the other 19 minigames. Dodge the Spike Balls is the first and is pretty basic until a second mouse is introduced, and when the difficulty gets ramped up on that, all hell breaks loose, with an NPC literally advising you to have another player use the second mouse. It does technically act as the game's final challenge, so sure. Guess the frame rate was actually a pretty fun one. Starts out with you guessing between 20 frames per second and 120, which is obviously easy, but the fast blink and you'll miss it animations for the comparisons between 40 and 60 or 60 and 120 are actually tricky as hell. This one was fun for sure. Touch 10 was a really clever one, showcasing how the touchscreen can now detect up to 10 fingers instead of 2. I don't know why they needed that improvement or how it will ever be utilized outside of this minigame, but fine. You basically just play Twister on the touchpad with your fingers. As simple as it is, this one is really fun all things considered. Guess the Angle has you tilting the kickstand a certain degrees to showcase the flexibility and stability of it, having you tilt it to 20, 40, or 70 degrees for instance, with later difficulties not giving you many hints. A pretty fun and clever one that I surprisingly got the hang of real quick. Speed Maze was pretty crazy, having the player use mouse controls to drag a metal marble across the screen into a goal within mere seconds, basically forcing you to memorize hand movements down to a T, with the final difficulty being pretty crazy. Intense and fun for sure. Speed Golf was one I wasn't a big fan of, but this definitely could have been a skill issue for me. You have to tilt the Joy-Con mouse at the right angle to get the golf ball in the hole as quickly as possible. My whole issue with this one was that tilting the club at the right angle repeatedly as fast as possible was pretty tedious and it was pretty hard to grasp the right speed to hit it at. Click Quick is really simple. Targets show up on the screen and you've got to click them in quick succession in the shortest time possible. That's it. 4K Pixel Hunt has you finding 3 to 5 tiny little pixels that have blended into your 4K TV, with all of them being barely visible, but moving so that you can still catch them. Pretty tough, but made a lot easier if you just press the brightest option at the start. Facial impressions actually sucked. Sure, the official Switch 2 camera is pretty decent for what is essentially a Nintendo-made 1080p webcam, but this shit could not detect my facial expressions for the life of it. You have to try and match the face shown on screen as much as possible, but the game couldn't detect my eyebrows being raised, my smile, mouth creases, etc. All shit I had to accurately detect if I wanted to get a high enough score to get that third secret medal, which is definitely impossible. I mean, this shit thought I was making a deadpan stare here. No the fuck I wasn't. Field the shape was pretty hard on any difficulty. You drag the mouse across a square and try to feel what shape the rumble is indicating to you. But do you know how many of these letters feel the exact same? Way too fucking many, that's what. Skill issue for me for sure, but holy Christ did this take a while. Color the Shapes utilizes the gyro and mouse controls, having you tilt an oval cursor to try and color in shapes without getting a single pixel outside of the black line. Seems pretty straightforward at first, but I did stumble into some gyro issues where my controller kept tilting even when I wasn't moving. I chalked it up to you just having to have the mouse real straight in front of you when playing this one, otherwise you're fucked on later difficulties. Speaking of the mouse needing to be straight, this game also expects you to have a shit ton of room to move your mouse around. Yes, you can turn up the sensitivity of the mouse, but I wanted to go into this with the default sensitivity in mind, as I assume that's what they based each minigame on. I used a pretty basic sized mouse pad to help ease up the feel of the mouse controls, and it was nowhere near big enough for the shit this game wanted me to pull off. One of the insights said they designed the mouse controls to be able to be used on your fucking lap. Yeah, good fucking luck playing any of these minigames off your damn lap. Back to the minigames, Match the Rumble is simple. It's just a simple memory match game where instead of images, your controller rumbles a certain feel for an everyday object and you have to match it with the other panels. Only one difficulty for this one for whatever reason, but still fun. Balloon Hunt essentially demonstrates typical mouse and keyboard first-person shooter controls, except instead of a keyboard, you use the left Joy-Con stick to walk around, shooting all of the balloons within an enclosed space. The harder difficulties ramp up how many balloons you have to shoot, but with tinier targets allowing you to take out multiple at once, while also having you memorize the layouts of the balloons to get better times. LCD Pixel Hunt is the same as 4K Pixel Hunt, but on the console screen instead of your TV. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Scrape Off was kind of weird. You just use mouse controls to scrape shit off the screen, with bigger, faster scrapes getting rid of bigger gunk, while slower, smaller scrapes gets rid of the smaller shit. That's really it. Open the GLGR locks makes you use the extra mappable buttons on the back of the Pro Controller charging grip to unlock locks via button combinations shown on screen, basically making you rewire your brain to remember that the A and B buttons are now on the back of your controller, as using the actual buttons only serves as a hindrance for you. Really cool. Stunt driving is another cool one. You use mouse controls to drive along a straight obstacle course, but you can tilt your mouse to the side in order to tilt your vehicle left or right, allowing you to dodge obstacles or pick up speed boosters above you. I enjoyed this one a lot. Brushstroke is another one with only one difficulty, where you have to use 2 mice to get the little wooden guy to the other end of the swimming pool via brushstroke. Pretty simple, but surprisingly hard if you don't have enough space to move the 2 mice, having to recorrect your position as you swim along. A pretty unique one control-wise. Lastly, you've got slot in the shapes, where you, well, slot in the shapes. You pick up the shapes, drag them over to the respective slots, tilt the mouse in order to fit them in with near precision, all in the shortest time possible. And that's all the minigames that Welcome Tour has to offer. All pretty basic and mostly pretty fun, although they're all fairly unlikely to be memorable and have you coming back for more. There is one nitpick that I have along with a lot of others online, and that's if you don't have the required peripherals or setup for certain minigames, you just can't play them. That means in order to experience everything that this paid downloadable title has to offer, you need to own a 4K TV, a Switch 2 Pro Controller or charging grip, a USB camera, aka the Switch 2 camera, a 120Hz monitor if you want to play against the frame rate minigame while docked, and a TV that supports HDR for those minigames and tech demos as well, although I'm pretty sure that all 4K TVs support HDR. The game gets around this by having 2 NPCs in your minigames that require these things tell you a literal cheat code in Morse code that you have to press near an employee so that they can just give you the clear medals. This entire thing wouldn't even be a criticism if this game, I don't know, wasn't a paid experience. But no, Miyamoto says, Nintendo doesn't make software for free. Fuck you, Miyamoto! Honestly, that decision alone should have made this game a pre-installed pack-in, but of course greed-era Nintendo could never let us have this shit for free as God intended. At the very least, this game should have been $5 or 7 Canadian dollars. Who fucking cares? This shit should not have been $15. $5 would have been stretching it, but $15 for 20 really small minigames, a handful of incredibly bland tech demos, and a metric fuck ton of info dumping about what went into designing the Switch 2 and what makes it tick is asinine. It actually sucks that upon launch, the original Switch had Breath of the Wild and at least 1-2 Switch to fill in for your multiplayer fun until Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out the following month. The Switch 2, on the other hand, has Mario Kart World, which of course fills in not only for multiplayer, but kinda your single player with its free roam, while the only other first-party launch title is this shit? What casual consumer is going to play Welcome Tour? This shit is tailor-made to assist the casual player to get accustomed to everything that the console has to offer control-wise while also educating them on it, but once more people start getting the system and more games are released for it, Welcome Tour will certainly become forgotten and left in the dust. You know, a technical showcase packing game hasn't been forgotten despite coming out nearly 5 years ago? Astro's fucking Playroom, bitch. Why? Because it's so damn good that it got a full retail sequel that won Game of the Year. See that shit, Miyamoto? Now sit in the corner until you learn to be a nice boy to your fucking audience. If you haven't gotten Switch 2 Welcome Tour yet, don't. I mean, unless you're a diehard Nintendo fan like myself and sinking 9 hours into it on that basis alone sounds satisfying to you. Otherwise, Wii Sports will always reign supreme.